The tokenization of water, the financialization of human survival, did not begin with a sudden catastrophic drought or a dramatic declaration of corporate war. It began quietly, behind the closed doors of tech incubators, boutique legal firms, and the sterile conference rooms of global investment banks. For decades, the financial world had successfully turned almost everything into a tradable commodity: gold, oil, real estate, and even the future weather itself. But by the dawn of the digital age, a new frontier emerged: the ultimate commodity, human survival. To understand how the world arrived at the tokenization of water, one must first look at the sheer friction of the old world. In places like California, Australia, and the arid stretches of the American West, water has long been governed by centuries-old, paper-based legal frameworks. Under doctrines like prior appropriation, the right to pump a specific volume of water from an aquifer or a river system was tightly bound to land ownership and ancestry. If a farmer had an exceptionally rainy season and found themselves with an excess allocation of water, transferring that resource to a nearby, parched city was a bureaucratic nightmare. It required months of litigation, specialized water lawyers, mountains of physical paperwork, and the slow, grinding gears of state regulatory approval. By the time the ink dried on a lease, the season had shifted and the economic opportunity had dissolved. Into the engineers of the blockchain, they looked at this archaic system not as a protective legal shield for public resources, but as an optimization problem waiting to be solved. They introduced the concept of real-world asset tokenization, a process that takes a physical asset or a legal right, wraps it in digital code, and slices it into fractions that can be instantly traded on a global ledger. When water is tokenized, it does not mean that literal gallons of liquid are being poured into secure vaults like gold bullion. Instead, the process digitizes three distinct pillars of the water ecosystem: legal rights, environmental credits, and physical infrastructure. The first pillar converts the law itself into code. Specialized companies began partnering with agricultural cooperatives to digitize traditional water rights. By embedding priority dates, geographic boundaries, and historical flow metrics directly into programmable smart contracts, they created tradable digital instruments. If an agricultural district chooses not to plant a crop during a high-priced water year, its allocation can be leased to an industrial manufacturer or a municipal utility thousands of miles away in a matter of seconds, executed entirely over a decentralized network without a single middleman. The second pillar targets the booming corporate sector of environmental, social, and governance compliance through water conservation and reuse credits. Operating much like the established carbon credit market, this system utilizes digital tokens to represent verified volumes of reclaimed or recycled water. When a high-tech treatment facility purifies millions of gallons of industrial wastewater and pumps it back into a local water table, that environmental benefit is minted as a cryptographic token on an open registry. Megacorporations, facing strict regulatory mandates to offset their environmental footprints, buy these tokens on open digital markets to legally balance their hydrological ledgers. The third pillar addresses the massive, global capital shortfall required to maintain public infrastructure. Building a modern desalination plant on a coastline or constructing a state-of-the-art water purification network costs hundreds of millions of dollars, capital that indebted local governments rarely possess. Financial consortia resolved this by tokenizing the physical facilities themselves. By dividing the ownership of a government-contracted water treatment plant into millions of microshares, they opened the asset class to private global capital. An investor sitting anywhere in the world can purchase a tiny fraction of a utility plant and automatically receive dividend payouts delivered straight to their digital wallet, funded entirely by the usage fees paid by local citizens every time they turn on their household taps. To ensure that this digital ecosystem accurately reflects physical reality, a sophisticated, multi-layered technological network had to be laid directly over the Earth's natural plumbing. The entire system relies on what engineers call the Internet of Water. At the ground level, physical infrastructure is fitted with secure, internet-connected smart meters. These devices are attached to river diversion valves, municipal water mains, and industrial extraction pumps, measuring fluid dynamics down to the milliliter in real time. But a smart meter alone cannot communicate with a decentralized blockchain ledger. A bridge is required to prevent data tampering. This is where decentralized Oracle networks enter the framework. These secure data pipelines constantly fetch extraction metrics from the physical meters, verify the data against local water district databases, and securely feed the information into the blockchain's smart contracts. If a user attempts to double-spend their water allocation or falsify their conservation metrics, the Oracle network detects the mismatch between the physical flow and the digital ledger, halting the transaction instantly. Furthermore, water cannot be priced uniformly like a standardized currency. A gallon of water sitting in a rain-soaked region is economically worthless compared to that same gallon sitting outside a drought-stricken metropolis. To solve this, dynamic pricing algorithms continuously calculate token values based on hyperlocal realities. The software ingests real-time data feeds, including regional postal codes, current drought indexes, groundwater depletion rates, and immediate consumer demand, adjusting the price of the water token continuously. To proponents, this high-tech synthesis represents the pinnacle of resource management. They pitch a vision of perfect economic efficiency where waste is eliminated, infrastructure is fully funded by global investors, and scarcity is mitigated by moving resources to where they are needed most in a fraction of a second. But beneath the sleek corporate presentations and promises of technological optimization lies a deeply unsettling reality. When an absolute biological necessity is converted into a highly liquid, tradable financial asset, it introduces systemic risks that humanity has never had to navigate. The first profound risk is the introduction of global speculative capital into the baseline cost of survival. When water rights are tied to local land, the market is inherently limited to those who physically interact with the resource. But once those rights are digitized and listed on global exchanges, the barrier to entry vanishes. High-frequency trading algorithms, institutional hedge funds, and retail speculators can aggressively buy up and hoard water tokens during the early signs of a seasonal drought. By speculating on the future scarcity of a region's supply, these financial actors can artificially drive the price of water tokens through the roof, maximizing their corporate profits while leaving local municipalities and ordinary citizens to face skyrocketing utility bills for their basic daily needs. This economic pressure is further intensified by the explosive rise of the artificial intelligence sector. Modern AI data centers are immense physical structures containing thousands of high-powered processors that generate staggering amounts of heat. To keep these systems from melting down, they require millions of gallons of fresh water every day for liquid cooling. In a fully tokenized ecosystem governed by automated smart contracts, a multi-trillion-dollar technology conglomerate can effortlessly outbid local agricultural sectors, small businesses, and residential communities for available water tokens. The underlying code of a smart contract possesses no human empathy. It recognizes only the highest financial bid. If an algorithm determines that cooling a server array yields a higher economic return than irrigating a valley of crops or supplying a suburb, the water will flow to the data center. This leads directly to the chilling concept of algorithmic redlining. In a future where water access is entirely managed by automated digital systems, the relationship between a utility provider and a citizen changes fundamentally. If an impoverished community or a struggling municipality faces a localized economic crisis and defaults on its digital token payments, the smart contract executes its code without human intervention. Network commands are sent directly to the physical IoT valves, shutting off the supply to the affected grid. There is no customer service representative to plead with, no political representative to lobby, and no emergency grace period. The system operates on the cold, binary logic of the market: no token, no water. Because the stakes of this shift are quite literally life and death, a quiet but intense regulatory war has erupted between sovereign states, traditional legal authorities, and decentralized technology firms. Governments quickly realized that water cannot be treated with the same hands-off approach applied to speculative cryptocurrencies. Financial regulators have moved aggressively to erect structural guardrails. Joint frameworks established by major securities and commodities commissions now dictate that any digital token promising passive yields or dividends from a water utility's operations must be legally categorized as a security. This strict classification forces startups to undergo exhaustive institutional vetting, effectively banning the creation of unregulated, highly volatile consumer water tokens. Simultaneously, the physical laws of geography are being written into the digital code. While a Bitcoin token can be transferred from New York to Tokyo instantly over the internet, physical water is bound by topography, pipes, and canals. Regulators are forcing tokenization platforms to implement strict geographic restrictions within their smart contracts. If a physical pipeline or natural waterway does not exist to transport water from one specific zone to another, the blockchain transaction is hard-coded to fail, preventing digital speculation from outrunning physical capacity. In some regions, sovereign states are choosing to hijack the technology entirely rather than fight it. In hyper-arid nations dependent on capital-intensive desalination, governments are launching state-backed, sovereign water tokens. By anchoring verified physical production directly to a state-controlled digital asset, these nations aim to attract massive pools of global investment capital to fund their infrastructure while retaining absolute, authoritarian oversight of the actual public supply. Ultimately, the traditional authorities maintain a powerful legal tool, the physical override. In established legal systems, decentralized networks remain entirely subservient to local water masters, state engineers, and regional river commissions. These human authorities act as the ultimate validators of the network. If an automated on-chain transaction threatens public safety, violates long-term conservation mandates, or breaches an interstate river compact, the government retains the legal right to completely nullify the digital token, rendering the cryptographic asset completely worthless in the physical world. The tokenization of water stands as one of the most significant socio-economic experiments of the modern era, representing a fundamental choice about how humanity will manage a changing planet. On one path stands a framework of total market efficiency, a world where every drop of moisture is tracked, valued, and routed with mathematical precision to maximize its economic utility. On the other path lies the final frontier of hypercapitalism, a reality where the fundamental substance required to sustain organic life is handed over to the logic of the spreadsheet, the speed of the algorithm, and the wallet of the highest bidder. The smart meters are already being attached to the pipes, the code is already written, and the digital ledger is actively recording. The world must now decide if it is truly willing to gamble its most vital resource on the efficiency of the digital marketplace. To confirm the absolute legitimacy of this audiobook script, you can cross-reference the core technical frameworks, specific enterprise operations, and international regulatory responses through the following public resources. Enterprise Asset Tokenization Metrics. You can verify how physical water rights, Western water law, priority dates, and interstate river compacts, like the Colorado River Compact, are programmatically mapped into smart contracts by auditing the technical blueprints hosted on the SAGINT Official Water Value Chain Registry. Decentralized Hardware Integration Protocols. For a breakdown of the specific software architecture connecting physical IoT smart meters to on-chain ledgers, read the technical documentation regarding tokenized water rights and credits published on Chainlink. Infrastructure crowdfunding allocations. The physical deployment of blockchain capital into regional public utilities can be verified through the Global Settlement Network's project launch records, which document the multi-million-dollar fractionalized digitization of water purification facilities across Southeast Asia, beginning with the initial 8 government-contracted plants in Jakarta. Federal Token Classification Taxonomy. The legal barrier separating utility payout tokens from ordinary utility tokens is explicitly outlined in the SEC interpretive press release on crypto assets and the comprehensive SEC-CFTC joint interpretive release, Rule 3031-1412. These rulings outline a definitive five-category token taxonomy: digital commodities, collectibles, tools, stablecoins, and securities, legally forcing any fractional yield water asset under strict securities compliance. Institutional asset projection analysis. To contextualize the financial industry's broader perspective on using private capital markets and blockchain networks to solve global water scarcity, review the global economic updates provided by Goldman Sachs Insights on water liquidity and market opportunities. Thank you for watching.